Good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you may be. Welcome, everybody. It's another hotel room, which means it's another pre-recorded Tuesday night Avenger call. I am on my travels, but as always, I've always got a bit of an eye on the market, and so why not provide a bit of an update? I don't really have too much news necessarily to go in and talk about. I have seen people talking about Larry Fink's appointment as a sort of interim manager of the WEF, and I don't really have any comment on that. I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised. BlackRock are trying to take over the world. What this necessarily means, I don't know. Other kind of news events that may help drive the market. We've still got the ongoing discussions with United States, Russia, Ukraine, the rest of Europe about this peace deal. We don't really have any resolution to that at the moment. But obviously, a significant breakdown from that is going to move the markets away from any TA you can see. And I would argue that a fairly good solution, amicable outcome, negotiation, whatever term you want to use, would also help the markets, but actually potentially moving back up. So we'll just have to leave those there and say we don't have enough information on that. All we can really do then is just look at what price is doing at the moment, look at the charts, try and see if we can get an indication of what it is, whether or not there's anything to worry about, etc., etc. So without too much further ado, let's just jump straight in on the 3-day time frames. I'm on my laptop, everything's a little smaller, so we'll blow them up here. 3-day time frame. We've seen the white horizontal trend line. Sorry if that was a bit loud. The previous sort of support resistance line we were looking at was 117,250. Over the last few days, we have lost that. We dropped down to around about 114,500. Interestingly enough, though, we did draw on a couple of Fridays ago, I think maybe last Friday, this sort of yellow diagonal support line, which the candle's still got 12 hours to go on it, but we have technically broken through that. So just trying to, ultimately be interesting to see where we're going with that. Now, okay, we may well have lost 117,000, but we kind of said, we've ranged to this period. So we've ranged around here now for a number of months. And the level that we're really, sort of keeping our eyes on, which felt quite far away, I suppose, a week or so ago, but that 110,000, which was the resistance level in and around here, through that ranging time through May and June. Hopefully now he's going to provide that support for what we do. A retest of it is not an issue. We've gone and had a look back previously on other, climbs to all-time highs and then coming back and retesting the previous all-time high. So falling down to that 112, 110,000 kind of level. It's nothing necessarily to worry about. Sadly, we would then be like, even if we fell to 101,000, it doesn't necessarily mean that the bull market is over. So just kind of prepare yourself. We've ranged, we've swept, we've done all this before. We've been through the sort of the ringer with it. And when it gets completely fearful, the market just seems to turn around. Now, I mean, I'll jump ahead to it, but, when we do look at the fear and greed when this is not on there, we're at 56. We're just ever so slightly into the greed category, which is kind of an interesting place to be. Only, a week ago, less than that, we set a new all-time high of 124,500. And yet we're still not even being able to manifest ourselves to get towards extreme greed yet. Granted, over the last week, we have fallen from around about sort of the high 60s down to 56. And that may continue to fall. But we're not in a major fear section. A lot of the other metrics or TA that we look at doesn't necessarily suggest that the bull market is over. We are just, in the swell and the tides of how the market is moving. But as we will look on a clear chart a little bit later on, we are still steadily climbing up. So for the big picture, really nothing necessarily to worry about with Bitcoin. And then ultimately, although we may not see bags pump as hard, kind of suggests that, we've still got the rest of the crypto market is there. It's not like the rest of the crypto market is about to fall away and Bitcoin's there. Just my opinion, obviously. Close that one down. We will have a look now at Bitcoin dominance because this is a bit of an interesting one, and it comes clearer for me when we look at it on the other time frame. I'm just trying to, you've seen this before, but this trend line, it goes all the way back to December. It doesn't actually touch, so that's probably why we're getting a bit of a misreading here. But we can see that we have broken it. Now, this is on the logarithmic chart. If we want to change that to the linear, we've still broken it when we tidy this up Granted, you probably can't see the bottom left, but I am pinching it to where it was. And this is where it is on the linear. So, 2 sets of data there, still suggesting that we have actually broken this, but we haven't had that fall through. Now, I'm not necessarily waiting to sit on my hands, but the discussions we've kind of had is 60% to 55%. There's going to be some great gains that can be made with altcoins if you do that. It's when we lose that 55 to 57%, however you want to draw it, sort of this level here. If we can lose that, that's when I think the real alt season is going to come through. So we're just in that process at the moment of heading back down. I always caveat with just don't be surprised if Bitcoin does make another run. We have been down to similar levels before, and this is, not the most accurate of trend lines that I'm drawing, because I'm having to change between linear and logarithmic. But just be prepared for that. But for those of us that are in an altcoin or have some altcoins in our portfolio, this has been a welcome sight, particularly if, unlike me, you hold Ethereum, which I'll talk about in a moment. Then we've got the total market. And we can kind of see here, we made that break above that 1.61 trillion level that we were looking at. Unfortunately, we haven't really been able to hold that. We have come back down. Ethereum has fallen from 4,700 down to around about 4,200, which is going to be a vast majority of this pullback. But the rest of the altcoins, bar a handful, have also seen that fall. So we're coming back down, and even on the 3-day time frame, we're seeing that the level we're currently at, we've wicked to these levels, bodies closing in and around there before. So no major concerns that we've broken a major level. I suppose there's probably, I don't know why it's in yellow, in green, a trend line here of some sort, of support line that we kind of come and hit down. I wanted to see if we could connect it to that, but it would have worked if it wasn't for these 2 wicks. Maybe we can still use it as just a yardstick, I suppose, and we just aggressively come down to this each time we come back up. So really, for me, want to see us move back up to that 1.61 trillion. I think we start getting down to the sort of sub 1.5 trillion. We're going to have conversations about whether or not we're actually losing a bit of steam with the altcoin market and maybe heading back down to these lower levels, 1.26 trillion, and God forbid anything even lower than that. And then BitTensor, which we'll talk about in more detail, but the quick snapshot of what we see. I mean, even if you want to keep the yellow lines on, which have only really been a recent occurrence, the white lines currently, we have just been really battling with this lower white line, which I'm loath to change, because it's been on there for this line for so long, 18 months now. But if we did move it down ever so slightly, it's still battling it here. But I think it's pretty good where it is. It still tells the same picture. Now, without the yellow line, generally when we've hit this white line, we have, I'll get rid of them so it's a bit easier to understand. We have bounced off these lines, and we've generally then made that move back up to this other level, which if we could get that far, we're talking back up to 500 now, which is nowhere near the all-time high I accept, but we're starting to get out of that zone. I mean, it feels like we have been slogging through the 400s and the 300s for what feels like 4 or 5 months at the moment. It's probably not actually been that bad. But yeah, that's where we look at it. However, just putting these yellow lines back on, you can actually see, particularly this bottom one, that if we can't hold this white line, then it probably means that we're going to be looking at that retest. I talked about this on Friday, sort of that Gandalf level around about 315, sort of down to the low 300s anyway, test. And that battle with the Gandalf line, in my opinion, is the major battle. I haven't sidestepped at the moment. It's unlikely I will over the next 10 days unless I really see something, just because I'd have to just do it on my mobile. And we just have to wait to see how that turns around. But I do stand, we look at some other altcoin gains, and the more established altcoins have done really well over the last few weeks. And sadly, BitTensor just isn't one of those. That's the reality of where it is as we sit. Okay, we've done those. We'll come back on the rest in a moment. Have a look at this chart here. There's this chart you usually see with a yellow sandwich of boxes, but actually that isn't necessarily the case now, because as you know, the yellow boxes just signify the liquidation heat map areas, and we used to have one at 124,000, but as I explained on Friday, that got perfectly wicked out by the price action up here. And then what we've seen since then its price action has come back down. And this one, which has been building for a number of weeks between 115 and 114, 300, got taken out in the last 12 hours, really, with this candle move down here. So this one's also gone. And there really isn't much left to show. There is 110, 111,000 tying in with some of the stuff we talked about, previous all-time highs, Fibonacci levels, the resistance for the range that we used to do through June and July. We were kind of building that up there. But if I actually show you, I mean, this is CoinAnk. This is the heat map. And there just really isn't that much building up. I know there's a lot of greens here, but it's not a huge amount. We're only talking about midway up the table. We don't really have any, sort of brighter greens into the yellows forming yet. And I think it's just, price action has just, seesawed and flipped so quickly. And we've started to drill it out. There is a little bit of spot that is building just under 120,000. And we do have some, underneath current price action. But as I say, that sort of 110 to 111,000 is where that real block currently lies. So we're just going to have to sit and wait with this. What we can say on the 12-hour time frame at least is we have lost the 20 and the 50 EMA. We haven't made a lower low yet. We've got to really, from this range, break 112,500 on the close. So, pull back from an all-time high. We've talked about that in sense of just people will be taking profit. That's the reality of it. People are taking profit, and as price is coming down, the big boys are filling their buys as price is coming down. So bear that in mind as we go through. Now we look on the clean chart, and I think Bijan posted this in Discord. So this is a linear chart of Bitcoin's price action. I know it's small, and it doesn't necessarily matter. I think the point that people are starting to talk about within the crypto space is that this was a 7-year-long resistance line, give or take. I mean, on the weekly time frame here, and I've not bothered to zoom in, there's a couple of wicks that have gone through, but you got the 2017 top, both 2021 tops. Then we had the sort of December 24 top and also the June 25 top, all finding resistance from this green line. But then what we actually saw through July is we've broken through that. Fine, we talked about that at the time, but now we're coming back down to rest on this as support. And the question really is, from a macro long-term point of view, have we managed to flip the support resistance line? Will we now be seeing this as a support line going forward, giving us that catapult to build from it? Weekly time frame, so we've got plenty of time in between candles for things to happen, but certainly could say a lot about it. Now, let's get rid of this line. We'll keep it on the weekly and we'll keep it clear. I'll probably go on the logarithmic if I can find. What we have seen here, and you can kind of see just, except for those two spikes to the top, it's pretty flat along this northern line. We had two spikes above it. The rest of that 120 or just under 120,000 level has been a real sticking point for close on the weekly time frame. And that figure, 119,400, really does tie in with this heat here of 119,500 that is starting to build up. And it kind of feels like this is where people are hedging their bets right now. We may, just come back up, but whilst we're in this range, this is where we expect things to go. Now, wherever you want to draw it, I think this is probably the safest place to draw this line at the moment of around about 115,000. But to be fair, that's because it's on the weekly. I think if you wanted to do the daily, you'd put it down to around about 112,500 and sort of take it in here. But this is the range that we're currently working in, and we're just letting that build up through. But just to sort of, confirm again that weekly time frame, 50 EMA, it's down here. This is the bull market indicator. Remember, the simple bull market indicator. And if we're above it, we're in a bull market. If we're below it, we're in a bear market. And, let's be clear, we can't cross below this to confirm a bear market until a number of weeks, until after we've peaked. So it's no major indicator, but it will certainly give us a heads up if we start seeing candle closes below that. It's at 94,000, okay? We're at 115,000. There's 20 grand difference between it. There's a number of layers in between. And previous times that we've come back and touched it, we found that we can bounce off it. So that's the real big picture indicator of where we need to be. In terms of, I didn't bring this up, but I normally wait till the end of the month to talk about it. So we will talk about it in September. But in terms of, Bitcoin's performance this month, we're pretty much neutral. We're 0.16, just over halfway through the month. We have said in the past that previous bull market years, peak years, we normally see green July and August, but historically August is actually quite a bad month. So bit of conflicting information there, and because this is sitting pretty much at 0%, we don't really know. We've still got another 12 days till the monthly candle closes. So yeah, maybe we'll just sit and wait from that one, but nothing really garnered from looking at that right now. In terms of who's still buying, well, BlackRock's still buying. Okay, I'll do this first. I actually think at one stage they did have over 750,000 Bitcoins. This might not be correct. I know there was a little bit of sales yesterday, but as I understand it, it's over 750,000 BTC. I also thought they had tipped into the 100 billion as well, but maybe I got my facts wrong on that one, and I can't do the maths quickly now to work out if that is the case. But I thought they had gone over it, perhaps not with where they're going, but they're still buying. Yes, okay, we had a bit of a sell yesterday, but some pretty big days over the last couple of weeks. 360 million, over $500 million on Thursday, last week. So yeah, some big movements there, and again with Ethereum, BlackRock leading the way once it loads with some more monster buys: 600 million, 500 million, 300 million, 250 million consecutive days. Actually, there's 2 consecutive days of 500 million, and if you actually have a look at that week, it goes 100, 254, 639, 318, 500, 519, 338, and then finally someone decides to make a little bit of a sale. But yeah, they're still buying. So, just if you don't have time for this, just go where the smart money's going. Smart money probably being BlackRock. They know what they're doing with this, and just keep going with that. And we're predominantly predominantly buys over the last 3 weeks. We've got to look at that one. We've done fear and greed, and the altcoin season. So we're pretty neutral again. 49. Not really showing any major alts even movement at the moment, but we've had some spikes up. I think we need to get beyond this 60 level, and let's just hope this isn't a Batman forming. Certainly that right here does look to be forming that way, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that one runs through. We go back now onto this clear chart, but we actually start looking at some other ones, because this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting for me. So first of all, Bitcoin dominance. We've talked about this chart here because it's on the weekly. It looks like a better picture to just say, well, actually, hold your horses. We're actually on support line at the moment. We've not broken that support, and we kind of need to just wait to see where things are. And it's painful because it's been a number of weeks in a row where I haven't really been able to make a clear decision on what I want to do with my Bitcoin, because there's no point rushing it when the indicator isn't telling you what you want to do. I've YOLO'd into stuff before because it felt like the right time, and ignored the TA, and we've seen it move the other way. And really at that time, it was just more of a hope and a gamble that I could just squeeze a little bit extra out if I was right. I'd rather wait for I am right, and okay, I lose a couple of percent in any move from that one. But this one is kind of just suggesting, just hold your horses, Harry, wait to see what happens. And then when you look at this chart, which is the Ethereum BTC, again, I was talking about my triple seesaw of BTC into Ethereum when Ethereum dominance proves it can rise, and then from there into large caps. What was the line I was waiting for? We were talking about doing it all the way down here at 0.03 Ethereum to BTC value. I wanted to wait to get to that line. Last week, we hit that line perfectly, but when I zoom in on it, we've smacked off it, and now we're forming a red candle. 5 days to go, so anything can happen. But why would I make that decision to sell my BTC into Ethereum when the trend line is actually suggesting, and this is not a small trend line either, this goes back years, that every time we hit this level, we reject from it. And I just don't want to be caught out in a position where I sat all this time in Bitcoin waiting for the move into Ethereum. I'm moving into Ethereum, and then actually Bitcoin rallies again and I lose that value. For me, I'd rather just wait. So This will be telling. Obviously, this will have a massive impact on the alt season metrics, have a massive impact on total 2, total 3, and just general sentiment in the altcoin market. So again, just something to have a look at. But we're willing it to try and get above this line, and then that move can happen. So I had someone ask me in Discord, and I can't remember who. Apologies. And I gave kind of a bit of a cryptic answer because before I left, I genuinely was considering, it was about midnight, day before I was leaving, of just selling all my altcoins and my Bitcoin or some of it and putting it into Ethereum, because I thought, well, I'm away for 2 weeks. Ethereum's doing well, still not taking its all-time high, but I got a feeling that if the markets are going to move, that all-time high is going to be gone. So likely that Ethereum's going to do better than the majority of other altcoins. I decided not to in the end because, one, the charts didn't lie, and that's where we kind of found ourselves. Two, it was 12:30. I'd have been having to get out Trezors and seed phrases and all sorts of stuff. Just couldn't really be bothered rushing through it, and I just held off. So I've kind of got all the positions where I got, and in some respects, thank goodness, because Link has actually rallied quite well. Everything else has fallen in line with most other things. But it just it's just a case of, I always think, when I was in the first cycle, I rushed into every decision, and actually being in this cycle, it's my third, I've just been a lot cooler, smoother, timely with my decision making, not rushing it. And sometimes I miss out on some big gains, but it didn't seem like the right thing to do. And again, I go back to the picture I painted at the beginning of this conversation, that there's nothing really to suggest that the market's over. We're just in the range period that we've been in 6 other times throughout the last, 12 to 18 months. And yes, if I could spend time staring at my computer a lot more, there is money to be gained from being able to jump in and out. But I'm on holiday and I'm trying to have some time with the family and talk to you guys as well, obviously. And it just feels, well, I've been in this position. I'm comfortable in these altcoin spread and allocation versus Bitcoin. I can sit in it for another 2 weeks. And then when I get back in the beginning of September, maybe I will have the confirmation that the price has actually, or Bitcoin dominance has fallen, and Ethereum dominance has finally broken this line. And then I can go, right, well, now I can move. Because if it does break this line, or when it breaks this line, we normally see Ethereum, it should at least 2 to 3x its value against BTC over that period. And if all I'm then looking to do is just put it back into, either into stables or back into Bitcoin, then I've doubled it. I'll be happy. It's doubled my Bitcoin amount right now. I'd be utterly delighted. And so that's the thought process. Why wait now when I might get a 0.001 head start on that move? So that was a 10-minute answer to a 2-second question. Apologies. Anything else on the clear charts? I don't actually think so. I think we'll just go now into the main charting. Okay, we look at Bitcoin chart here. Before we dive in, I forgot that Reese asked me to go through some settings. So he wanted to know about the Trades Reality main, which is here. Going into the settings. These are the settings that I have it set up at the moment. So I know that it talks about the PVSRA colors. I actually think you don't need to necessarily change anything to do there. On the EMAs, I've just taken the transparency, the opacity, should I say, off the 5 and the 13. They are actually technically still there. If I brightened them up, you'd see them pop up on the right-hand side now. But I don't use those because, as I said, I use the 10 and the 20. So I just get rid of that. That's where that goes. Pivot points, I have showed labels, but I don't show levels, so I don't think anything comes up. I don't bother with the M levels. So I just untick these and nothing pops up. Highs and lows just show the labels, but again, you only see those on certain time frames. The average daily range, I don't show that one, so that there's nothing there. There's no table. Same with the weekly range, don't show that, or the monthly range. I'm not saying you can't have them on. It's just an awful lot of information when it's on there. Range daily highs, I have those. Again, on lower time frames, it will pop up and show where those are, but don't show it on the daily. So just follow these settings here if that's what you want to have a look at. Same with the weekly. These tables here, and I think you have a table on your middle right-hand side, and I think it's this one, ADR table position, top right. You've probably got it as like centered somewhere. So just I don't have any of these clicked because I don't need the table in the background. I think if I did this, it'll pop up in a second. Maybe it won't because I have to actually close everything. Maybe it doesn't. Come on. Okay, it probably takes a bit of time to kick in. You watch it. I'm going to take it all off now, and it'll kick in. But I just have them all unticked. So let's just untick all those. Daily opens, I have those. So the override. So PVSRA override. I have that switched off. Why? Because I have my own separate indicator for that. So then, I'm not interested in any of these. Just leave these settings as they are because I've taken the override chart off. The fact that it takes its information, I think this one, where does it take it from? So it just takes it from the index BTC chart. So like the one that is the longest BTC chart all the way back. And then on the other one, it's from Binance. But you can change it. You see, and it says, you can type in multiple feeds or whatever you want to take it from. But I don't use it, so it doesn't matter. Market sessions, yet we have those. And then these are all the market sessions. So I don't have them all showing because I don't want to see them all, but they are there if you want them. So the US Brinks box is pretty much the only one I have, which is that sort of hour of trading before the markets properly open. And that's it on the TR main. And then just with the imbalanced pips, the imbalance is what giving me my vector candle stuff. So I show the imbalance, show the high time frames, show the extended zones. These are the colors for each of the speeds. The override symbol here takes it from Binance, doesn't matter. And I just have this one ticked at the bottom. Automatically derive the equivalent Binance per pair to override volume. So I just take it from there. And that's the rest of it. And it's as simple as that, really. I don't change anything else. And that's just how those look. Okay. Now, back to Bitcoin. So on the daily time frame with Bitcoin, yes, we made that all-time high. But look, we've come down to take this 50 EMA, okay? And we've been to the 50 EMA before. But what I like now that we can see the vector candle is, look, there is. I mean, you can see it. You know what I'm going to point at before I even do. This red vector candle is left in its wake. I'm telling you, at some stage, we're going for that, okay? Unless the market is actually over, we're going for that. And we've come back down to the 50 EMA. So good a place as any to sort of place a positive sentiment of this could be where we're looking for a retrace. Now, this is going to be close to the 618. I don't know if it's actually going to be bang on it, but it's going to be 786 down there. You could just sort of see by the distance, it's 786. So again, it's made a good sort of level recovery back to that. It's pretty much 786 on this one as well. Just doing wick to wick. We'll stick it with that. And so, so we've come back down and we didn't really hit any key levels on the way down. We kind of fell through a lot of these. So I'd probably stick more weight towards the 50 EMA, but, a positive sort of, bounce from this here. And with only the 10 and the 20 in our way, get through these. And it's this vector zone. As I mentioned, I would be looking at an area of interest, 123,300, but that range of 119,300. So we have to kind of get into that range that we were talking about, where a lot of the liquidations are starting to build up from that. And you can kind of see now that we're on the daily, this top part of that range is still around about that 119.5, 120,000. But that's kind of where I'm looking. We're still continuing to make higher highs on this move up. So we haven't lost that yet. There has to be, I suppose, a worry of an M formation here. But if the 50 EMA can hold, that's probably going to negate it. As long as we continue that high there, then I'm happy with where that's going. We go down to the 4-hour time frame, and so we left quite a number of red vector candles in these moves down. One of them is within that first zone, but actually even here between sort of 115.6 to 118,000. The difference, I suppose, we've got here, if I'm being honest, is just the number of EMAs that we've now got in our way. The 200, the 10, the 20, and the 50 EMA all standing within us at the moment. But again, I suppose a very crude way of looking at this would be some sort of M formation, drop 1, drop 2, we could sort of drop 3 now, W formation, and maybe we're looking for that move back up. That's certainly something to consider. This certainly looks like a bottoming pattern of some sort. So as long as, again, we can hold that 115,000 as a close on the 4-hour time frame, we're just sort of looking to try and build some momentum. What I would like to see, maybe it's going to take some news, is a green or at least a blue vector candle coming back through these lines here, maybe even taking out towards that 50 EMA. So that's what I'll be looking at. But again, if you want to mark off your vector zones on the 4-hour time frame, it's from where we currently sit at the moment, 115,700, pretty much up to 117,000. 500, which again is the 50 EMA. So there could easily be a move to be made there. Let's just go to Tau daily. I'll have a look. So we talked again about on Friday. It's messy in there. The 10, the 20, the 50, the 200 are all spaced within about $10 of each other. And we've lost them now. We've come back down here. And it's kind of, we had that W formation here, and we did move up. We just ranged. Whatever we made one day, we lost the next type of feeling. But we've actually come back down into this at the moment. And it kind of feels for me that we probably are going to be heading back down to that sort of 330 kind of level. And we're going to just make it, it's a Russian doll of W formations and sort of have that move. But just BitTensor just isn't feeling it for me. I'm not feeling the love that we've seen in other altcoins. It's really been quite stubborn in this range for a very lengthy piece of time. And I think I'm still of the opinion up here that if we fail to clear this, I will go for a very large side step. But at the moment, we're the wrong side of it. What I will say is the 800 EMA down here is on the Gandalf line. That 315 level is, again, where we're looking. Go down the 4. So we kind of, we're making lower highs and lower lows in this little move down at the moment. I probably do foresee a slight move up. Maybe we get to sort of 370, maybe even 380. Take some vectors and back up some EMAs. But again, we now need to break 385 to break the trend. And that would, to me, be that first W formation on the left-hand side where my head is, this one. We need to kind of get this one going. Now, you could argue, I suppose, that this is all just one giant weird consolidation period. Or you could also argue that this was dropped down to come back down, and this is the consolidation. No, you can't argue that because we've gone lower than that low there. Forget that one. But yeah, maybe that's an M formation. That was the drop, consolidate, drop 2. Maybe that's where I need to be looking at it, and we have got a third drop within us once this consolidation period ends. Ethereum. So, on the daily, I've said Ethereum's just so far away. And we've only just got back to the 10, which we talked about on Friday, and we talked to the 20, maybe where we're heading towards. And at the time, the 50 was at the 3.5. And so 3.7, 3.6 at the moment. But we've been away from it for a long time. This and Link look very similar. We can fall back to the 50 EMA, still be incredibly bullish, and it's going to feel like a smack in the face because it's such a far fall from where we were. It's just going to, I think, especially with Ethereum, demoralize a lot of people. That retest here of this 3940, you've got to remember that prior to us breaking 4,000, a week or two ago, we couldn't break 4,000 for 2-3 years. So a retest of that 4,000 kind of level, or 3931, I think that's what you want to see. You want to see it pull back to that and then prove that actually we can bounce from it. Unfortunately, that means that we have to keep losing some of these levels. And maybe it's a case of actually in the next 10 or 12 days, by the time we get to the end of the month, the 50 EMA is going to caught up to that level, and that's going to be the perfect storm. But it could also act as a perfect level of support to give us that move back up. I wonder. Let's just throw a fib on this down here. This is marking a bit of a top. So yeah, the 232 is pretty much at the 4,000 level. Interesting. Okay. What about if we did this? It's kind of split in the 5 and the 618, but okay. Anyway, I was just doing that for my own amusement, I suppose. Link's been pumping pretty hard. Look at the amount of green vector candles here. I mentioned last week, every time it pumps like this, it does retrace, but just see the distance. We've got all of these vector zones, and we've got all of these vector zones, and we're also that far away from the EMAs. The EMAs have fanned out quite nicely. And we've not even retested the 10 at the moment. So it's looking well. And it is altcoins like this which are helping sustain this sort of alt season mentality. I know it's down 4% today. But that's because it was up at $27 at the close last night. So there we go. Let's have a look at Solana. So Solana's, so that's interesting straight away, isn't it? We've got this Sharp move up to 200, rejection back to the 200 EMA, sharp move back up to 200, red vector candle sort of marking the top, and it looks like it's a pretty sharp move coming back down, likely probably to retest this 200 EMA. So we're at 182 at the moment, maybe down as low as 160, 166. But that in itself just doesn't paint a very attractive picture, because then we've got this, which, we're not going to see. What I would say, though, at least for now, is, the trend is we are going higher highs. Okay, so even if we did up here, the low, first high, higher low, higher high, higher low. This one technically is a higher high. So we are still trending that way. That hasn't broken yet, and that can't break until we form this double top, I suppose. But there's that in our sights. The problem we have with the 50 is we've just entangled in that one so much over the last couple of weeks or months that maybe it doesn't hold as well. And the last, the 200 has been the thing that's held us together through July and into August. Tron just keeps marching north. I say bet against Tron at your peril, really, because it just defies it. This one's just snaked up the 10 EMA since the middle of June, and it hasn't really shown any respite from that one. I kind of want to long it, I'll be honest, but I just know as soon as I do, we'll have that correction to the 50 EMA. So I'd have to do a pretty tight stop. But I think whatever's going on with Justin Sun, and someone put in Discord about him confirming, admitting, and now denying that he owns 60% of the supply. Whatever that is and how this is moving, there's potentially a game. It's not a token or project I'm interested in. But, in terms of the patterns are looking pretty good for the longs. It'd be nice to have a test of the 20 EMA maybe, at least for an entry. I mean, on the 4 hour, it's still not looking terrible. Okay, we've had a little bit of sideways chop for a couple of days, but, just been using the 50 EMA pretty nicely, and it's stuck to the 50 EMA even right now. We're just resetting some of those settings for potentially another move up. XRP, I met a friend of mine on Friday for a drink. He's a diehard XRP army guy, and he was crushed when I told him that I think XRP will likely end up going back down to about $2.70. It's almost like I said 27 cents to him. But as I reminded you and I reminded him, you've recently made an all-time high, but since that all-time high, you've failed to retest it. Matter of fact, the closest you've got is to the underside. You rejected by previous support and forming another double top pattern, and then we're coming back down. I just feel that probably reset on this 800 EMA on the 4 hour, 200 EMA on the daily. 200 days is slightly different, but it's close enough. It's down here. But by the time we get there, sort of about that 2.6 level, I just feel, and then actually even on the daily, kind of is looking a little bit toppy. I'm not saying it's the end of it. I'm just saying that, we had such a strong move and there's such a strong army behind it. There probably was profit taken. We just need to break that trend. And a bit similar, I suppose, to Sol, we are still making, oh no, we're not. I was going to say higher lows, but that was actually a lower high there. So ignore me on that one. Anyway, that's where that sits. Anything else really to go through? Not necessarily. Total threes in around 1 trillion, just north of it. USDT still climbing upwards. Dominance is actually, I was just about to say still dropping. It's dropping on a whole, but it's pulled back to the 50 EMA. Maybe this is actually, 50 EMA and then another little run back down. Maybe that's what we're waiting to see there. For the rest of these tokens, Coinbase still kind of falling. Circle still falling. MicroStrategy falling. Nvidia climbing. Palantir pulling back, falling, I suppose, but it had an almighty run. TauX, for those of you who are in it, let's just hope that's not a double top. And Tesla's just ranging as it really has been. I think that's probably kind of everything in terms of the chart patterns there. And I suppose with that, it's probably everything we're going to be running through. I'm sure there will be a trading pub on Thursday. I'll do another one of these calls next week. I'm not sure where I'll be. So I'm in Greece at the moment. I'm in Corfu. And then next week, I'm on a cruise around Italy and back to Greece. So I'm not sure where I'll be, but I'm going to try and, I think it's a sea day on the Tuesday. So there'll be plenty of time to do some content for you. Other than that, good luck with the rest of the week. I'm not as active on Discord. I'm sort of checking it about once a day. So if you tag me on something and I don't get back to you immediately, I'm not ignoring you. I will see it when I see it. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Let's just try and get through what is historically slog month August, slog month September, and then hopefully we can really see everything move. But things will get back to normal for me. I suppose in September, it'd be like the 2nd of September for the live call. And then it's a cuddle that week as well. So I hope you got your tickets booked. I'll also be talking. I know it's quite heavy in the towel stuff, but I will be there doing some normal crypto conversations and obviously chatting to everybody in the bar afterwards. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Thanks a lot. Cheers now.